I wanted to do this video a bit differently this time. I'm supposed to open this by summarizing how hard it is to get through your 20s, and then say that I have some answer for you. But it just really is not that simple. Your 20s isn't one thing. It can't be defined or captured in that kind of way. It's a period where your optimism and worldview are shattered, remade, and shattered again. It's a time when people do things that shock you, traumatize you, and fill you even with joy in ways you didn't know existed. It's even a time when you might do things you didn't think you were capable of, for good or bad. Whether it's the world that shocked you, yourself, or both, all of us experience this in our 20s, and we have to pick up the pieces and redefine who we are. And that's just it. I thought about this for a while, and the best single thing I can say about your 20s is that it's not when you find yourself, it's when you have to refashion yourself from a collection of broken pieces. So, in this video, we will talk about how to survive your 20s and come out of it not damaged and lost, but as the you that only you could put together. I mean, your real self. But the question I struggled with the most was how to even talk about this. I can't just bring up thinkers and philosophers, and I can't use statistics or science. These things are all too abstract. The best I could come up with was to talk about certain themes, things that I've been through, which it seems a lot of other people go through as well. The moment where life throws us around like a rag doll, leaving us adrift at sea, wondering who we are, why we do what we do, and most importantly, what to do next. In essence, I'm going to try and talk about the hardest moments of your 20s. And if just one of these things relates to your life and helps you think through it, then maybe I can consider this video a success. The first theme that strikes me is our worldview. As children, and especially as teenagers, we put together this view of the world in order to make sense of it. And while this is totally normal and necessary, the world is just too big and complex for that picture to be totally right. We have this image where we know what's right and what's wrong. Who is in the right and wrong? We think the world plays by these fair rules, that what is right and good always comes out on top in the end. And this helps us know how to be a good person. The problem is, the world isn't that binary. It's not black and white, not simply light and dark. Being good, living a good life, is extremely hard. I think for me personally, the most painful part of this lesson was not necessarily seeing others do bad things and go unpunished, though that can be difficult, but it was doing things myself which I thought were good, or in the name of some good cause, which ended up serving some other purpose, some end that hid itself in some story of good versus evil. So if this has happened to you and you're wrestling with it, know that it isn't because you were too blind or stupid to see it. It really happens to all of us. It could have been patriotism, family values, a career, a political cause. I mean, really anything that you thought was good and right that turned around to leave you confused, ashamed, angry, and all twisted up. Whatever it was, the only advice I can offer as someone who's been there is not to get stuck hating the world for seemingly tricking you, but to build something new for yourself, something that lets you see the world through many different lenses. I think, depending on your situation, this first theme can actually lead into the second, relationships. Sometimes we change without meaning to, and as we grow, we can come to have issues with those we have previously been close to. Maybe you have a childhood friend that you can no longer relate to, maybe a family member you suddenly see in a different light. But whatever it is, this is always hard. The truth is that all of our relationships, not just our romantic ones, will change with time. You won't have the same friendship you had in childhood, high school, college, etc. But that is okay. When we get hung up on the fact that we suddenly feel different around that person, that absolutely does not mean you have to leave them behind or you've outgrown them. or that something is definitively wrong. It means you need to think about how the new you and the new them can relate and have a relationship in this new phase. Family can be tough too, and there are so many different experiences out there that I just can't speak to. But one piece of advice to remember is this: the ones who do love you, who do care, reach out to them, talk to them, make the effort. We can sometimes take for granted that family will always be there, but time really does fly by. And your 20s is a time when you're distracted by so many things. So make this effort where it's needed for those who deserve it, or you won't have the relationship with these people that you could have had for the rest of your life. Romantic relationships are kind of their own thing. People are just so different in what they want, how they express themselves, and how they approach love. But here are two important lessons, especially for your 20s. Firstly, learn how to set boundaries and stick to them. This one is quite tricky. When I say set boundaries, you probably think of not letting people disrespect you, not allowing certain lines to be crossed, etc. And while that is good and important, the less talked about aspect is setting limits when you know you aren't in a good place, when you know you don't care for someone the way maybe they care for you, or when you feel pressured in some way. In other words, when you're too afraid to tell someone a hard truth because it will make them sad, make life very difficult for both of you. So you continue to be that person for them, day in and day out. If you've fallen out of love, say it. If you don't want to enter into a relationship, say it. If you feel like you're being pressured, say it. This is not only for you, it's for them. Honesty truly is, in the end, always the best choice. It can take years to exit the fog of a toxic or misunderstood relationship, and there are so many emotions bound up in it. So the hard truths said early are always the best course of action. The rest will really take care of itself. And finally, the last thing on my mind is simple. You absolutely must learn how to fix yourself. It's easy enough to say we know what's been going on with us, that we will change now that we've figured out what it was that was going on. But the actual changing part is by far the hardest thing to do. To be and act different when those trigger moments actually come. We always go after the big things too, the major changes. We try to overhaul ourselves, to completely change our lives. But this never really works, because we put all of our effort into changing those big things and those big narratives, and then when the small moment comes, we're too exhausted to even notice it. It could be your relationship with food, the way you chase or avoid love, attention, or sex. It could be pride and ego. Whatever it is that you have that you know should be better, it needs to start with the everyday little deeds, the things we do every single day. You need to be different down to your very bones, not just in how you think of or speak about yourself. This all reminds me of a quote from Nietzsche. He wrote, "I was in darkness, but I took 3 steps and found myself in paradise. The first was a good thought, the second, a good word, and the third, a good deed." This is him picking up on an old Zoroastrian saying, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. They believed that living a good life started with the very thoughts we chose to take up, not merely by choosing to seem a certain way or change an action. So you have to start now, because trust me when I say that changing just gets harder the longer you go. The cycle gets more solidified. The truth becomes harder to face. So whatever it is, it could be needing to have the confidence to change your life path or career, or a toxic trait that's continuing to affect your life. It doesn't matter what. It matters that you start now. Your 30s will be even harder, and after that, it becomes like rolling a boulder up a cliff. This was a bit more of a rambling video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, these are just a handful of things I've experienced and wanted to reflect on with the hopes it could relate to or just get you thinking. As always, let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.